We are live. How you doing, Jose? We are with our guest, Jose Vega, gone 23 years and 10 months, and released in June 5th, 2018. So that was pretty recent. Thank you so much for joining us here in the Sisteration Room. This is where the conversation happens. This is where the conversation happens, and we talk about the emotional tax that we paid being away. And when do we get reimbursed for that? Or do we get reimbursed for it? You have any thoughts on that to start with?
It's difficult getting it reimbursed because after you spend so much time in a penitentiary and away from your family and loved ones, it's time doesn't get reimbursed because you're away for so long and away from everybody. And it's a difficult task coming home from the penitentiary, especially being disabled, the suffering and pain one goes through. So to get reimbursed after all them years is difficult and it's hard. I
And
don't,
right, it's hard to
yeah,
say whether or not you really
yeah.
get reimbursed for it because the time is spent, like you said.
Mm.
Where did we start with you in the beginnings? When you went to, what was life like when you were young?
Well, it was difficult for a simple reason. Being disabled and being in a penitentiary, it was.
Not there. Let's go back. I want to take us back. I want to take us back to how you grew up. Did you have both parents in the
Oh
home?
no, I had a good upbringing. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and East New York. My dad was a plumber, and my mom was a housewife. And when it comes to my parents, I don't have no complaints because they made sure we had everything we wanted growing up, and it was beautiful because we grew up playing sports, we grew up going to school, we did everything we were supposed to do. And I always say that my older brother and myself, we started messing up because of the high school we went to. But when it comes to my parents, I don't have no complaints because they made sure we had everything we had wanted growing up. We grew up playing sports, and I don't have no complaints when it comes to my parents.
Okay.
Mm.
So so how did we end up in prison?
Well, my brother and I ended up in prison. I would say the high school we went to because we wanted to be accepted, and we started hanging around the wrong people, the wrong crowd, and we started doing things we wasn't supposed to do. And you live with regrets because as you grow older and you go through all the suffering and pains you go through, you wish you would have listened to your parents. You wish you would have done things they told you to do, especially when they grow up telling you to do the right things and you grow up around going to school and doing the wrong things. Because what my brother and I did, we had no reason doing because we had a beautiful upbringing, and we broke our parents' hearts. We broke our parents' hearts, and that's the truth. That's the truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did they have any idea that what you guys were into, what you were into?
Of course, you have an idea.
No. Did your
Oh no,
parents?
no, no, no. They didn't have no idea. They didn't have no. They started noticing after a while when we bringing home expensive jewelry and buying expensive things out of the ordinary and
Mhm.
hanging around the people we were supposed to hanging around, breaking night and stuff like that. And everything started when we was like 16, 17, 18 years old.
It was hard for them to reel you back in at that point. Were you guys just at that point had you become rebellious yet?
Yes, we was rebellious because we ended up going to prison our first bit, and prison made us worse.
Well,
Prison.
how old were you when you went to
When I went to prison my first time, I was 16 years old when I first got locked up, and I ended up copping out to 2 to 6 for three armed robberies. And out of the 2 to 6, I did a little over 4 years because I was bad in prison, and prison made us worse.
Mm.
Prison made us worse.
So you said that was your first time, and then so you came home and tried to pull it together, or you didn't? You just were even
No,
more rebellious.
it made me worse. It made me worse. It made me want to do worse things, and it was rebellious against the street thugs.
Hmm.
And, and that's what we rebelled around. I lost my brother while I was in a penitentiary, and he went home from Clinton Correctional Facility. We was on the same company, and he left in '91,
Hmm.
and he ended up dying in '91.
In prison.
No, in the street. In the street, he got into a shootout with police officers and ended up shooting them. And the superintendent in Clan Correctional Facility allowed me to go see him in the hospital because he was in really bad shape. And I went to see him, and he had a machine that was keeping him alive, and he asked me to pull the machine, and I wouldn't do it. He told me, please pull it because I was suffering. I want to pull the machine. And a couple of weeks later, the doctors told him to take the handcuffs off for him because he was in really bad shape. And this was in 1991, September of 1991. And he pulled the machine, and my family thought it was the police officers that did it. And I told him no, he did it because he asked me to do it. And he went into really bad shape. He ended up dying a couple of days later.
Wow. And what was his cause?
The machine was keeping him alive because he was allergic to penicillin,
Mm.
and he was allergic to a lot of medications. So the machine was keeping him alive, and after he went into the coma, whatever the process was, he ended up dying.
This was baby brother or your older
No, that's
brother?
my older brother.
How'd you handle that?
It was difficult because I was in a penitentiary, and the gentleman you're gonna
So the
And-
pop, so you said you, so he met, so they released you to go. They gave you a
they
furlough
gave me
to
permission.
go.
Yeah, that the
And so
officer.
then he pulled that plug while you were there?
No, he asked me to pull it when I was there because he was handcuffed.
No.
He was handcuffed to the bed, and I went and pulled it. And when the doctors told him to take the handcuffs off because he was in really bad shape, he pulled it. He pulled the machine, and he went into a coma, and he was in really bad shape.
So a friend of yours,
A friend of mine, Jose Sedana, he was in Clinton with me when this happened, and he was in a company with me. And they wasn't going to allow me to go to the funeral, but the superintendent came and gave me permission to go to the funeral because the officer said that my family was really nice and that I didn't give him no problems when I went to see him in the hospital. Because if you go to the hospital, you can't go to the funeral. They allowed me to go to the funeral, and I seen him there. And
so you went to the hospital and the funeral?
yeah, I went to the hospital.
That's fortunate.
Yeah, that's very fortunate. They don't allow you to see that. Yeah, they don't allow you to see that.
Right. You
And
get one.
one or the other. And sometimes you don't get none.
Most of the time you get none. Most people don't get to go, and
So-
there's really no rhyme or reason to it. There's no
they just do
be
what they
good
want.
and
Yeah.
maybe they'll let me go. It's just a luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Who gets to go?
So I went to the funeral, and I was released. Wow, it's funny. I just noticed this now that I'm talking to you. I was released November 5th, 1991, and I was released this time June 5th, 2018. I'm number 5.
Wow.
This is the first time I noticed that. Wow, that's weird.
Yeah. Wow.
And I came home. I was trying to do things right. I'm gonna be honest, because I didn't want to go back to the penitentiary. But the new cars, the jewelry, the fast money swallowed me back in. And I ended up getting. I was doing things right. As a matter of fact, I was doing things right because I was working with my dad with his plumbing company, and I ended up getting shot over a car crash, over an argument. And this was June 19, 1992. I ended up getting shot over a car crash.
What do you mean over a car crash? How does that work?
I got into an argument because we got into a car crash with some guys, and I ended up getting shot. And guns, they pulled out guns and they ended up shooting. I got shot, a little girl got shot that day. And this was
an accident?
Yeah, over an accident, over a car crash. And that's how I ended up being a paraplegic. I ended up being paralyzed.
Where are you from?
I'm from Brooklyn, East New York.
Brooklyn, you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I ended up getting shot in Brooklyn, East New York also. And this was June 19, 1992. And I've been a paraplegic since.
Wow. So what time? So when you went to prison at 16, you were not paralyzed?
No. First time I wasn't paralyzed.
So this is the second time you went in?
Back to prison, yes.
When you went back into prison?
Yes.
You were paralyzed, and
Yes.
and that was. I'm trying to get a play for. So when you came home the first time, you're good. You had a car. You were in a car crash. Then you recovered. Were home. Great. Went back. Well, you recovered and you were
disabled.
And so you still went back into the street.
Yes.
Even though disabled.
When The second time I went to prison was for murder in the second degree. They gave me conspiracy to a murder. I got into an argument with a guy over a woman, and gunshots gunshots went out, and he ended up getting shot. And they gave me conspiracy to the murder because I won't tell them who did the murder. So they ended up sentencing me. They wanted to give me 50 to life, the district attorney, but the judge gave me 22 to life, and I ended up doing 23 years and 10 months. I was arrested August 29th, 1994, and I was released June 5th, 2018.
Okay.
I went to the
So
parole.
you had two arrests.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I went to the parole board the first time they hit me, and the second time I didn't go to the parole board and they released me.
So it was kind of like it wasn't really something that you did that put you back in prison.
No, they gave me conspiracy to a murder
Conspiracy.
because the first three witnesses said I wasn't there, which I wasn't there, and then the last witness was a 15-year-old kid, and he said that he seen me getting in a car.
Is this a federal case?
No, this was a New York State.
So they do hearsay as well.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I thought state will hear you out
Mm.
because I know feds will hearsay is all they need.
Yeah.
One
They
person.
gave me conspiracy to a murder, and the kid said that I was there when the murder happened. That he seen me in a wheelchair.
Wow.
Mm.
That's a whole episode right there. We can go into that about that type of thing and what did that kid owe to the state to make him say that you were there when you actually weren't, because we know stuff like that happens.
No, and the funny part, the key witness, the girl said I was with her at the time of the murder, which I was.
She said you were with her at the
Time of the murder.
And you were there
Yeah,
with her.
with her.
But that didn't
But
hold.
that didn't hold because they said that from where she lived to where the murder happened, it was 5 minutes, and that I could have made it from there to there and made it back.
She said that?
No, the district attorney.
Oh.
The district attorney. So they saying that the time that could have happened.
Wow. So you went from you had your time in the rodeo basically.
Yeah.
And so like what turned everything around? Like when I know yourself and Jose Saldana are really good friends, and what turned you around? Did he help turn your life around, or what made you start to look at things differently?
Well, when I was in a penitentiary, I was really rebellious because that's all I knew how to do. And the reason is when you in a penitentiary, the way they treat you, is a place where it's a horrible experience. And for fighting for my basic medical needs and disability needs, they put me through it. I was in a box. They put me in solitary confinement. They took my wheelchair from me, and I was in a box, and they took my wheelchair from me and left me on a bed. I ain't had my catheters, I ain't had my medical supplies, I ain't had nothing.
Okay, so a box, solitary confinement,
yes.
That's what everybody's been trying to fight against, because leaving somebody in solitary confinement in a box, literally of the size of a box, for years, sometimes in months, years, is terribly damaging to our mental space.
Yes.
And so I think halt solitary confinement. I don't know if you were fighting for that.
Yes, I was a part of it.
Yeah, that was a initiative that was that actually won that, right?
Yes, I was on it.
Go ahead.
With Murphy, Miss Murphy from WPIX News.
Yeah.
They did an interview and everything about that, and they changed it because of the interview and several other interviews of the guys and men and women.
Yeah.
They changed it.
Yeah, Victor Pate was very relevant in that initiative. We talked to Victor Pate here in the Sisteration room as well. So what is it that you would like to see? I mean, let's put it that coming home. What was coming home like for you after you got through it? And tell me about meeting Jose Saldana. Let's start there with Jose.
Well, I know Jose Saldana from my first prison bed. And when I went back in my second prison bed, he was in a prison I was in, and we've always maintained a positive friendship. He was like a mentor to me because he's a very smart, intelligent man. And he was in Shawanga Correctional Facility, and this was in 1995 when he took my wheelchair from me because I was fighting for my basic medical needs. and they took my wheelchair from me because they was making me reuse catheters, and I was only supposed to use one catheter, and it was difficult. So they took me to the box, solitary confinement. The officers took my chair from me. They told me transfer in the bed. They want to check my chair. They took the chair out the cell. I didn't eat for 3 days because they will put the feed of food on a hatch, and it will say, if you can't get your food, you won't eat. And I was asking for help, and the nurses and everything, and nobody would do anything for me. I was constipated. I was urinating on myself. The bed was full of feces. The bed was full of urine. And when the guys in population found out what they was doing, Hamza, and there was a lot of stand-up guys that the whole prison locked down. So now the executive team found out what was going on. They came to see me. They ordered them to take me out of solitary confinement. They took me to Albany Medical Center because I was in really bad shape. I had 103, 104 fever. And when I got to there, they had to do an emergency operation on me because my urethra was had a stricture, had a hole because they was making me use the wrong size catheters. And what really helped me out was that one of my cousins was dating the doctor, the urologist at the time, and he really went out his way to help me. And they had to do the emergency operation and everything, and he had to order special catheters and everything. So I filed a lawsuit in 1983, and Mr. Saldana helped me with it. We was in the library. They threw me out. When I got back and I filed the lawsuit, they gave me another misbehavior report and shipped me out to jail to upstate box because of the lawsuit that I filed. So when I went to the upstate box wouldn't accept me because they knew I had filed a lawsuit. And this was in 99.
So you filed a lawsuit in
Yes.
1999
Yes. And and
against.
against the New York State Department of Corrections, the superintendent, the commissioner, the whole executive team, Dr. Sipek, the nurses, staff, everybody. I put everybody in a lawsuit that I could put in there. So now, to make a long story short, they started giving me the right catheters because the doctor operated on me. They had to put a suprapubic tube, which that means is a tube in your bladder, because I couldn't urinate like a regular person. And it was horrifying because I suffered a lot. And I was hiding this from my family and friends because I didn't want them to know what I was going through.
Right. I know what that's like.
Yeah. So I went through that, and and they sent me to a regional medical unit because now they started opening regional medical units behind the lawsuit I filed. So that's where people that with disabilities, people that got cancers, people that got no legs, this was, oh my God, when I went there, the people I seen, and one thing I always say that there's one place in this world that does not discriminate is the Department of Correctional Services. Because they lock anybody up. They don't care if you're blind. They don't care if you're black. They don't care if you're white. They don't care if you're Chinese. They don't care if you don't got no legs. They don't care if you got HIV. They don't care if you're paralyzed. They don't care what's wrong with you. They just want a conviction and they just want a DIN number. And that's the only place in this world that does not discriminate. That's the truth. And it's horrifying and it's despicable what they put us through.
Well, the Department of Corrections doesn't arrest, incarcerate, and nor convict.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be discriminate in that space. They just do what they do when you get there. So yeah.
Yeah, they don't
They
care.
discriminate against people when they get in there.
Yeah, they don't care because they treat you really, really bad. They treat you really bad, and it's scary. It's scary what they put you through, because they'll stick you in these isolation rooms, away from populations, and nobody has access to you. Nobody has access, and then your family, somebody comes see you, they'll say you refuse to visit, because they do these things. They do these things, and then what they'll do, they have a nurse and an officer sign that you refuse to sign the refusal, and they're gonna believe them before they believe you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think the problem with the Department of Corrections is it happens more frequently to our BIPOC community.
Mm.
So to say they don't discriminate is kind of, it sounds like you're putting a little cherry on something that they don't do. But in
No, no, but
actuality,
no,
there are more of us in there. So it's likely that they would.
no. What I mean that they don't discriminate, that they treat everybody the same. That's what I mean. That they don't. For example, let's say for example, an able-bodied person and a person that's disabled, they treat you guys the same.
Hmm.
They don't give you what
Right.
they.
No, there's no preferences, no
Right, right.
preferential
When I say
treatment.
that, that's what I mean by that. I don't mean that they don't discriminate. Of course, they discriminate.
Right.
But I'm
And you
talking
know,
about
but when you put it, when you say it like they don't discriminate,
no,
that's the only place. It's like, wow, let's go to prison. They don't discriminate there. Like, no,
no,
that's
no. I
not the
mean they treat.
message.
Yeah, they.
It kind of taints the message,
Yeah,
if you know what I'm
cause,
saying.
cause, cause it's difficult what they put you through in the penitentiary, especially in the New York State Department of Correctional Facility. They, they, you could walk and I can walk. They're gonna make you do, try to make you do the same thing that that person does, that you can't do. For example, they'll tell you, get on there, we gotta search you. They expect me to do the same thing. They'll make you sit on the floor, and they want me to do the same thing when I can't do it.
Mm.
If not, they'll dump you right out the chair. That's what I mean to that. They ain't gonna treat you no different than they treat a regular
So they do
person.
discriminate, my dear, because
Yeah,
that's discrimination right there.
and they're not supposed
When you're
to.
trying to treat
Yeah,
me like you're trying to treat me as the same as no, they're trying to treat you the same as they are treating someone with two legs
yeah,
that operate.
yeah.
I mean, that's discrimination.
Yes, it's
It's
discrimination. Yes,
totally
yeah.
discrimination. I'm having a problem personally with the positive connotation
Mm,
of us hearing that they don't discriminate,
mm,
because they do.
yeah.
It comes through in a space where they just don't care.
Yeah,
They don't care
they don't
about
care
human
nobody. They
life,
don't care about
so they don't
nobody.
get that
Yeah.
positive
Mm,
accolade thrown in there as some sort of a space where we can hear them say, oh, they don't discriminate. Because when people hear, when you say the Department of Corrections doesn't discriminate, we're like, oh, well, we've got a disabled person here that's saying the Department of Corrections doesn't discriminate. That's a soundbite. They'll keep that and use that.
mm.
We can't
No,
give them
and
that, my dear.
yeah,
We cannot give them that
no,
on any level, not even as a soundbite. Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah. I understand exactly what you're
Okay.
saying. I understand exactly what you're saying because they don't care. They don't care for humanity. The way they
Right.
treat us, the way it's horrifying. It's horrifying because what I went through the years that I was there was so scary, was so scary. And then when they finally decided to the lawsuit, when they called me to the courts for the lawsuits,
Yes. So tell us about the lawsuit and
okay,
how it
well it went
ended
my
up.
favor, my favor. Um, they accepted the lawsuit. They gave me $10,000, which I took it because at that time my mother was doing bad, and I gave her the $10,000. But they had to change the prison system. When I mean they had to change the prisons, the cells, they had to make the cells wheelchair accessible.
Hmm.
Out of 3 cells,
What year was that?
this was in 2003, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I was in Greenhaven Correctional Facility when they called me. They had to put hot and cold water in the cells.
Okay.
They went from 7 catheters a week to 30 catheters a week. They went from 30 pads a month to 150 pads a month.
Mm.
They had to give us a box of glove a month instead of a pair of gloves a day.
Mm.
They had to give us 4 surgical lubes. They had to give us whatever medical supplies we needed, and they had to give us wheelchairs that was accessible to meet our disability needs. Like everybody sees people in wheelchairs and they think everybody has the same condition, same
So
issues, and we don't.
you made some positive inroads while you were away.
Oh yeah, yeah. I changed the whole prison system. I changed the whole prison system, and they hated that. They hated that because they had to send us to either these regional medical units, which was a part of the lawsuit,
Mm-hmm.
and while they fixed in Shawanga, Greenhaven, and Five Points were the main three prisons where they had to make the cells wheelchair accessible, and they had to change everything, everything. The way they searched us and procedures, the way they did everything with us, and it was because of a lawsuit. It was because of a lawsuit.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Wow. So fast forward, you made it through all of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you know what's the funny part? It's I asked myself how I did it, but I took it as a challenge, and sometimes I tell myself I believe God put me in there for a reason, because it was difficult, it was hard, and I hid this for my family. I hid all this for my loved ones, and I had a lot of support from the prison system, from the prisoners, and they don't like that. They don't like when you see people unified, when they see changes being made.
Right.
They set you up. I'm gonna bring something here. I'm up to know these journals. I used to write everything in the journals what I used to go through every day, and I remember one time they threw all my journals away,
Oh my
and
God.
that's how